And for you, what's the case that you will never forget?
Well, there are several, but I'm going to talk about Victor Coella, who was 96 years old, and he came to court and was taking his 63-year-old son for cancer treatment, and he was charged with speeding. And that's a case I'll just never, ever forget. A 96-year-old man still caring for his child, and taking him for treatment, taking care of him. It was very emotional. So anyway, Victor, we became good friends with Victor, and followed through with him and went to his house and helped him celebrate his 100th birthday recently.
That's great.
Mr. Coella, you are charged with a school zone violation.
Beg pardon?
You are charged with a school zone violation.
Right. I don't drive that fast, Judge. I'm 96 years old and I drive slowly, and I only drive when I have to. I was going to the blood work for my boy. He's handicapped.
You were taking your son to the doctor's office?
Yeah, I take him for blood work every 2 weeks because he's got cancer.
You are a good man. How old is your son?
63.
Yeah. And Daddy's still taking care of him, right?
I only drive when I have to.
Yeah. You see that young man over there? That's my son. Now, he's looking at me saying, Dad, when you're in your 90s, you're going to be driving me around. You're putting a lot of pressure on me. Listen, sir, I wish you all the best. I wish the best for your son, and I wish you good health, and your case is dismissed.
You have a charity institution, yes? Would you tell me about it?
It's actually quite amazing. People, through watching him on television and through social media, would become involved with the people who were in front of him in the situations like Victor and other people. And this one particular woman who was not a wealthy woman, she worked in a supermarket, was a single mother, wanted to help, and she brought out a check one day and sent in with a note that said, please help a single mother. So he did that on screen, in the courtroom. He used it to help pay somebody's fine. And then when that was shown, donations started pouring, and we've never asked for a donation. But out of the goodness of people's hearts, they've sent in tens and tens of thousands of dollars, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, to donate, just asking to help somebody that needs some help in the courtroom. And he named it the Philomena Fund, which was his mother's name. So the Philomena Fund.
Philomena. So many times, rather than dismiss the case, I would use those funds that people sent to pay the fine. So I would say to a mother, for example, who had many children, who didn't have any money, maybe whose car was impounded. If the circumstances warranted, I say, listen, we're going to give you an opportunity to redeem yourself. We're going to use money from the Philomena Fund to pay for your violations and to pay for your tow bill, and for you to get your car back, And you should see some of those clips of those people. They just are in tears and they can't believe it. On occasion, I've had people come in who haven't had a meal in a while, and I would actually give them cash, not only dismiss their case and pay it from the Philomena Fund, but give them some cash to go out and eat.
Your grandparents were the first generation of Italian immigrants to the United States?
Yes. I think the better way of life was why people immigrated. The biggest, prior to now, the biggest immigration in the United States was between 1885 and 1920, and that's when they came from Italy to the United States.
Someone of your ancestors maybe was in court or was accused of something?
That's a wonderful story, and actually
Which one is that?
Informs him of really one of the reasons why he is the type of judge that he is, because it also involves his father. And when his father was a child, his grandfather was out one night with a bunch of friends, and things would happen, the police came and they just got a little rowdy. They were having some fun on a Friday night, And they got arrested, and he had to go to court the next morning. So his grandmother was very afraid, didn't speak English, an immigrant from a foreign country, didn't know what the consequences would be. She went to court the next morning. She didn't speak English, so she brought her son, who was a child, who spoke English. Her son was his father. So as a child, his father was in the same Providence Municipal Court many years prior to translate for his mother. And the judge came out, and they were very afraid, and his mother jumped up. She had gathered some donations.
When they brought him up from the cell.
Yeah, she had gathered some donations from her friends and people that worked with his father, and she jumped up and said, Judge, and no jail, no jail, and she's holding the money. And the judge, who was, like out of the movies, a white-haired judge with the red face and in the robe, the judge said, ma'am, your husband's a good man. I'm going to send him home, cook him a good meal. And his father was translating. So you can imagine the emotion of the family not knowing if he was ever going to come home, if he was going to go to jail. They didn't know what the American justice system was back then. And this nice judge sent him home to a good meal. And the strange thing is that many of the people that come before him today are in the same shoes that his father and grandmother were in. They're new to the country, they don't speak the language. People come in, they don't know if a parking ticket's going to send them to jail. They don't know the justice system. So you can imagine the ripple effect through all the families of Rhode Island or the region of people that come before him with these heavy parking fines, and by some miracle, not only do they get their car back, but sometimes they get money to go get a nice hot meal.
That story could have a ripple effect. If that judge was mean to my grandmother and my grandfather, and my father was a young man at that
Or
point.
just applied the law blindly. He could have done that.
I probably wouldn't be here today, seriously, because my father, as a result of that, and the entire family, had such a respect for the law, They could have, who knows what their life would have been like. They would have hated the system, they could have done some crazy things. My father, till the day he died, actually, the judge was an Irishman. My father he referred to him as that great white-haired Irish judge. That was his name, a great white-haired Irish judge.
Yes.
And he stayed with him his entire life,
Yes, it tells about the background where you come from.
Yeah. So it affected my father's life, and by extension, it affected my life and my children's lives.
But in turn, it really adds context to fast forward to his first day as a judge, when his father wasn't happy because he applied that full fine to the person who, really, they were just afraid and they didn't know what was going on in the court.
Yes.
And so it gives that context, because I'm sure his father was thinking, what if that great Irish white-haired judge did that to us?
Yes.
Mary Beth Lamar,
Yes, Your Honor.
relax. He showed me documents. It's a very emotional document. It's your brother, who was an East Providence firefighter, and he was deceased earlier this year.
Unexpected on the day that this ticket was received.
All right,
So
I get it.
I was told, you have a few minutes to come to the hospital before we move the body. I think the body's still up there. You can come and see him. Let's say goodbye.
Tell me about your brother.
So he was paramedic.
So his job, he was saving other people's lives.
I've just completed, at the age of 56, a accelerated Bachelor of Science in Nursing at UMass Boston. So he would have been very happy. Always carried Band-Aids around. So he was a firefighter from the very beginning, paramedic from the very beginning.
So he took care of you from a very early age, right?
Yep.
So he was your protector. All right, Mary Beth, the red light violation is right next to Rhode Island Hospital.
Yep.
And you're on your way to the hospital. Based on the story you're telling me, I'm going to dismiss the case.
I appreciate it, Your Honor.
You know.